There are places on this Earth so strategically vital that history has been written and rewritten by whoever controls them. The Strait of Hormuz, the Suez Canal, the South China Sea. Each one a narrow passage where the world's most powerful nations have fought, schemed, and positioned themselves for centuries.
But the most consequential choke point in human history isn't on Earth at all. It isn't even on a map most people have ever seen.
It is a strip of gray rock and frozen shadow, no larger than a mid-sized city, perched on the edge of the moon's south pole. 20 kilometers of terrain that sits at the precise intersection of sunlight, water, and gravitational leverage over the entire inner solar system.
Whoever controls this 20-kilometer stretch controls something far greater than the moon. They control the gateway to every planet humanity will ever reach. And right now, as you watch this, the race to claim it has already begun. The moon is, by most measures, a dead world. No atmosphere, no liquid water. Temperature swings of 400 degrees Celsius between shadow and sunlight. For most of its surface, survival would be impossible for any human installation or any rocket that needed to be refueled.
But the South Pole is different, and the reason comes down to a single, almost absurd geometric fact.
Earth tilts 23 degrees on its axis. That tilt is what gives us seasons. The moon, by contrast, barely tilts at all, just 1.5 degrees. At its poles, this means certain mountain peaks and crater rims are illuminated by the sun for up to 94% of the year.
Scientists call them the peaks of eternal light, and they sit directly above a crater called Shackleton. Shackleton Crater stretches roughly 21 kilometers across and represents one of the most extraordinary contradictions in the solar system. Its rim sits in near-permanent sunlight, perfect for generating solar energy. Its interior has never once been touched by sunlight in over 1 billion years, which means its temperature never rises above -170 degrees Celsius, cold enough and stable enough to trap water as ice.
That water ice is the most important substance in space exploration. It can be split into hydrogen and oxygen, the two components of rocket fuel. A permanent installation on Shackleton's rim would sit at the top of a fully stocked gas station for the entire solar system. Mars missions, asteroid mining, deep space transit, all of it runs through this ice.
But here is the constraint that turns a resource into a choke point. You cannot access the ice from just anywhere on the South Pole. The slopes must be shallow enough to descend safely. The rim must be navigable. The sunlight must be continuous enough to power drilling operations year-round.
When scientists and mission planners map every single constraint simultaneously, terrain gradient, solar exposure, proximity to ice deposits, communications line of sight back to Earth, the viable operating zone shrinks to roughly 20 kilometers.
20 kilometers out of the moon's entire 11,000-kilometer circumference, about the size of central Manhattan. And every spacefaring nation on Earth, and several private corporations worth hundreds of billions of dollars, already knows it.
In 1967, as the Cold War reached toward the heavens, the world's major powers signed what seemed like a definitive legal solution, the Outer Space Treaty. Its central provision was unambiguous. No nation can claim sovereignty over the moon or any other celestial body. Space belongs to everyone, or it belongs to no one.
The problem is, the treaty was written 60 years ago, before private corporations had rockets, before water ice was confirmed at the poles, and before 20 kilometers of lunar dirt became the most strategically valuable real estate in human history.
In 2020, the United States introduced a new framework, the Artemis Accords. On the surface, they appear to be a cooperative agreement for peaceful lunar exploration, signed by over 40 nations. But buried inside was a concept that international legal scholars have been arguing over ever since. Safety zones. Each nation conducting operations on the moon could establish a protective perimeter around its activities, and other nations would be expected to respect that perimeter and avoid interference. On its face, the idea sounds reasonable. You don't want rival spacecraft landing on top of each other.
But the practical effect is something far more significant. The first nation to land on Shackleton's rim, establish infrastructure, and declare a safety zone effectively controls access to the 20-kilometer strip without ever using the word sovereignty. The first mover gets to define the boundaries, and there is no international authority empowered to say they drew them too wide. Russia and China, who have not signed the Artemis Accords, have called this precisely what it looks like, a land grab by legal euphemism. Their competing framework, the International Lunar Research Station, is designed to establish a rival legal reality on the ground. The result is two incompatible frameworks, neither recognized by the other, converging on the same 20-kilometer patch of terrain.
The Outer Space Treaty says no one can own the moon. The Artemis Accords say you can exclude rivals from your operational zone. And the nation that lands first will have the power to define which principle actually governs, because there is no court with jurisdiction, no peacekeeping force capable of responding, and no precedent whatsoever for what comes next.
This is not just about science, and it is not just about water.
Military strategists have a phrase, command the high ground. On Earth, it means mountains. In naval warfare, it means straits. In space, it means orbital altitude. And on the moon, it means the South Pole.
Any spacecraft traveling from Earth toward the inner solar system, to Mars, to the asteroid belt, to deep space stations, must transit the Earth-Moon gravitational corridor. A permanent fueled installation at the lunar South Pole can resupply those missions, extend their range, and dramatically reduce what every mission must carry from Earth. That is an extraordinary strategic advantage for whoever builds it first.
But fuel is only half the equation. Consider the landing corridors. Descent to the lunar South Pole is constrained by terrain. The viable approach paths converge, like highways into a single tunnel, on the same 20-kilometer zone. A nation already occupying those landing sites with infrastructure on the ground has the practical ability to deny landing to rivals.
Not through weapons or hostile action, simply through presence. Analysts have begun calling this concept orbital squatting. A rover parked in a landing ellipse, a habitat occupying the only flat approach gradient, infrastructure that makes rival landings dangerous rather than forbidden. No space law currently prohibits it. No treaty defines it as aggression. And yet the effect is identical to a blockade.
A spacecraft that cannot land at the South Pole either carries all its fuel from Earth at roughly 4 times the cost, or it cannot complete its mission to deep space. The entity that controls the South Pole's refueling infrastructure controls a veto over who else gets to reach beyond it.
In geopolitical terms, that is leverage. And leverage over deep space access, in a century when Mars colonization and asteroid mining move from science fiction to industrial reality, is a form of power that no nation with ambitions beyond this planet can afford to concede. Every great land grab in history has had 2 phases, the flag planting phase and the infrastructure phase. Flags mean very little without the roads, supply chains, and fortifications that make a claim permanent. On the moon, the infrastructure phase has already quietly begun. NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program has contracted multiple private companies to deliver equipment to the lunar surface ahead of any crewed Artemis landing. Among the highest priority payloads, ice prospecting drills, regolith processing experiments, and landing pad preparation technology. Landing pads, the unsung foundation of lunar colonization. When a rocket engine fires near the lunar surface, it blasts regolith, that fine, razor-sharp lunar dust, outward at velocities that can destroy equipment kilometers away. Without a prepared landing pad, every new arrival on the South Pole is simultaneously an act of industrial sabotage against every installation already there, and that physical reality has an immediate strategic consequence.
The first entity to construct a permanent landing pad on that 20-kilometer strip doesn't just have a base, they have the only safe place to land. Every subsequent mission must either use that infrastructure on whatever terms the owner sets, or risk destroying its own equipment on final approach.
Add helium-3, and the commercial stakes become almost incomprehensible. This isotope, rare on Earth, but deposited across the lunar surface by billions of years of solar wind, is a candidate fuel for future fusion reactors, estimated at billions of dollars per ton. The South Pole's perpetual darkness has prevented a solar wind from stripping it away. The companies that extract it first will hold physical infrastructure, processing patents, and logistics networks that no later entrant can easily replicate.
The private sector is not operating independently here. These aerospace companies are, in the most direct and historical sense, the advanced forces of national programs, building the infrastructure through which their governments will exercise sovereignty. The 21st century version of the East India Company has arrived, and it is pointed at the moon.
History is crowded with moments where a narrow geographic bottleneck changed everything for generations. The Isthmus of Panama, the English Channel, the Strait of Malacca. Whoever built the canal commanded the channel, taxed the strait. They shaped the economic and military architecture of their era in ways that outlasted the empires that built them.
What is decided on this 20-kilometer strip of lunar terrain will echo far beyond the moon.
If the precedent is established that a safety zone effectively constitutes a territorial claim, then the same logic applies on Mars. On every mineral-rich asteroid a private miner stakes and physically holds, on every Lagrange point where a nation parks a permanent station, the moon becomes the template for the entire solar system.
The 1967 Outer Space Treaty was written to prevent exactly this, a cosmos carved up by the powerful as a new form of colonialism.
But it could not anticipate the physics of scarcity. It could not anticipate that one specific strip of 20 kilometers would be so definitively the only viable location that first arrival would confer essentially permanent advantage to whoever got there first. Some legal scholars are calling for a lunar code of conduct, binding rules negotiated before permanent occupation rather than after, an international agreement on the size of safety zones, a shared authority to manage lunar resources the way the Antarctic Treaty has managed that continent's mineral wealth for 65 years, with remarkable success. Others argue that no such agreement is politically achievable, not with the United States and China in open strategic competition across every domain simultaneously, not with private capital already flowing into orbital infrastructure faster than diplomats can convene. What is not in dispute is this: the decisions being made right now in mission planning offices in Houston and Beijing and Moscow, in budget committees of Congresses and standing committees of the party, will determine whether the moon becomes a commons or a colony.
20 kilometers of frozen rock and near-permanent sunlight. No flag planted there yet means anything permanent. No legal agreement yet fully covers what happens when one does. But the race is real, the investments are real, the missions are funded, and the launch windows are already calculated. The first entity to build a landing pad, sink a drill, and flip on a solar panel on that ridge will not merely be making history. They will be writing the laws, the actual, practical, on-the-ground laws of the entire solar system for generations we cannot yet imagine.
The choke point is there. The clock is running. And the question of who controls those 20 kilometers may be the single most consequential geopolitical question of this century.
History doesn't wait for the philosophers to finish their arguments. It never has.